You open your phone for 10 seconds, just to check the time. 40 minutes later, you're still scrolling. And somewhere in that 40 minutes, without noticing it happen, you started feeling worse about your own life. Not because anything bad happened to you. Nothing changed. You just watched other people's lives flash past, and somehow that was enough. Most people call this jealousy, or insecurity, or just a bad habit. But the real explanation is far stranger. Your brain isn't malfunctioning when this happens. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. And understanding that changes everything about how you see yourself. Why does comparison feel so automatic? Why can't you just decide to stop? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You were never built to feel content with what you have. You were built to notice the difference between what you have and what's possible. That's not a flaw. It's a survival tool. For most of human history, you lived in a small group. Maybe 50 people, maybe 100. Every person in that group was someone you could actually see, actually compete with, actually learn from. If someone in your tribe found a better hunting ground, you needed to know. If someone built a stronger shelter, copying them could keep you alive. Comparison wasn't vanity, it was information. The psychologist Leon Festinger studied this in the 1950s and called it social comparison theory. His research showed that humans don't evaluate themselves in isolation. You measure your own worth by constantly checking it against the people around you. It's automatic. It's involuntary. And for most of your evolutionary history, it worked beautifully because your comparison group was small, local, and real. But here's where everything changes. Your brain still runs that ancient program. Except now, your comparison group isn't 50 people in a village. It's billions. It's the most photogenic, most successful, most curated version of nearly every human on Earth, delivered directly to your eyes every time you unlock your phone. Your brain doesn't know the difference between your neighbor and an influencer in Dubai. It treats every face on that screen as someone from your tribe, someone you should be measuring yourself against. Think about what that actually means. You are comparing your unfiltered, ordinary, behind-the-scenes life against someone else's highlight reel. Not their full story, just the 10 seconds they chose to show. The psychologist Miley Steers ran a study at the University of Houston and found something revealing. People who spent more time on social media reported a sharp rise in depressive symptoms, and it wasn't the platform itself causing the damage. It was the specific habit of comparing their own life to others' curated posts. The damage wasn't in scrolling, it was in measuring. So why does this feel so personal? Why does it sting in a way that logic can't talk you out of? Because your brain isn't built for logic in this moment. It's built for status. For most of evolution, social standing wasn't just about ego. It determined whether you ate, whether you reproduced, whether you survived a harsh winter. Falling behind the group wasn't an inconvenience, it was a threat to your existence. Your brain still treats it that way. When you see someone living a life that looks better than yours, ancient circuitry fires the same alarm it would have fired 10,000 years ago. Danger! You're falling behind. Do something. Except there's nothing to do. You can't outrun a photo. You can't fight a highlight reel. So the alarm just sits there, unresolved, slowly corroding how you feel about your own life. This is where the story gets even more interesting. Researcher Sonia Lyubomirsky, who has spent decades studying happiness, found something counterintuitive. People don't actually get less happy because their life is objectively worse. They get less happy because their reference point keeps moving. Imagine you got a raise last year. For a few weeks you felt great. Then your brain quietly adjusted. The new salary became the new normal, and the old excitement evaporated. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You're not standing still. You're running, and the finish line keeps sliding forward at the exact same speed you run. Comparison accelerates that treadmill. Every time you see someone with more, your brain doesn't just notice it, it updates your internal definition of enough. And enough never arrives because the goalpost is rigged to keep moving. Here's the twist almost nobody talks about. Comparison itself isn't the enemy. The direction of comparison is. There are two types, and they produce opposite results. The first is called upward comparison, looking at people who seem to have more than you. Used carelessly, it breeds resentment and shame, but used deliberately, it can become fuel. Studying someone further along the path can show you what's possible, not just what you're missing. The second is downward comparison, looking at people who have less. This one quietly inflates your ego, but it teaches you almost nothing, because there's no information to extract from feeling superior. The difference isn't whether you compare. It's whether the comparison teaches you something or just wounds you. Researchers building on this idea, including work associated with psychologist Thomas Musweiler, found that the outcome of a comparison often depends less on who you're comparing yourself to and more on a silent question your mind asks in that moment. Two answers are possible. Am I similar to this person or fundamentally different from them? If your brain decides you're alike, the comparison feels close, personal, and threatening. If your brain decides the other person occupies a different category entirely, in resources, in circumstances, in starting point, the same comparison loses most of its sting. This is part of why a billionaire's lifestyle rarely makes you feel inadequate. Your brain quietly files them under different category, doesn't apply to me. But a former classmate, someone who started in the exact same place you did, can feel unbearable to watch succeed. Same type of content, different mental category, completely different emotional outcome. This explains something strange about social media specifically. It collapses every category into one feed. The billionaire, the classmate, the stranger, the celebrity all arrive in the same format, scrolling past at the same speed, framed with the same casual intimacy. Your brain, which relies on category to decide how much a comparison should hurt, loses that filter entirely. Everyone starts to feel like they belong to your tribe, because the platform presents them that way. That's not a coincidence. It's a structural feature of how the feed is built, and it's part of why comparison online cuts deeper than comparison ever did in a physical neighborhood, where distance and context did some of that filtering for you automatically. So what actually breaks this cycle? Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on mindset offers a clue. People who view their abilities as fixed traits tend to experience comparison as a verdict on their worth. People who view their abilities as things that can grow tend to experience comparison as information they can use. Same situation, same scrolling feed. Completely different internal experience, depending on one belief about whether change is even possible. This is why two people can see the exact same successful stranger online and walk away with opposite reactions. One feels small, the other feels challenged. The image never changes, the mindset does. Now here's where this becomes personal. You probably check your phone within minutes of waking up. In that half-asleep state, before you've even formed a single thought of your own, you're already absorbing dozens of other people's lives. Their bodies, their relationships, their vacations, their money. You're letting strangers set the emotional tone of your day before you've decided anything for yourself. That's not weakness. That's just what unguarded attention does in a world engineered to capture it. The algorithms behind these platforms were not built to make you feel adequate. They were built to maximize the time you spend looking. And the emotion that keeps you looking longest isn't contentment. It's a quiet, simmering sense that you're missing something. That feeling isn't an accident, it's the business model. There's a reason this particular emotion is so effective at holding your attention. Contentment makes you put the phone down. Curiosity about what you might be missing makes you keep scrolling. Every platform competing for your time has, whether by deliberate design or simple trial and error, converged on the same discovery. Content that triggers social comparison performs better than content that doesn't. A vacation photo outperforms a quiet evening at home. A milestone announcement outperforms an ordinary Tuesday. Over years of exposure, this doesn't just shape what you see. It shapes what you believe is normal, because the abnormal, the exceptional, the highlight, is what the algorithm has learned to show you most. So what do you actually do with this? Start by noticing the moment it happens, not after, but during. The instant you feel that small drop in your chest while looking at someone else's life, pause. Ask yourself one question. Is this comparison giving me useful information, or is it just making me feel small for no reason? If there's nothing to learn from it, you're not gaining wisdom. You're just absorbing a wound for free. Next, Shrink your reference group on purpose. You were built to compare yourself to 50 people, not 500 million. Choose who you measure yourself against with intention. The people you most respect in real life, the people whose actual daily habits you can observe and learn from, are a far more useful comparison group than strangers performing a highlight reel for an algorithm. And finally, redirect upward comparison into a question instead of a feeling. Instead of, why don't I have that? Ask, what specifically did they do that I haven't tried yet? One question breeds shame. The other breeds a plan. This is where your life becomes part of the story. Every single day, you're going to encounter other people's highlight reels. That will never stop. What can change is the role those moments play in your mind. You can let them quietly convince you that you're behind. Or you can recognize the ancient circuitry firing inside you, name it for what it is, and choose what to do with the signal instead of letting the signal choose for you. You opened your phone for 10 seconds just to check the time. What you do in the next 10 seconds, the ones right after that feeling of falling behind hits you, that's the part that actually shapes who you become. Not the algorithm, not the stranger's vacation photo. You. Because the brain that compares isn't broken. It's ancient, it's powerful, and once you understand what it's actually trying to do, you stop being a passenger in your own mind and start being the one who decides where the comparison leads.